Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets, where we decode the art and science of building a thriving coaching business. Let's uncover what's in store today with none other than myself, the road dog, and of course, the legend himself, Karl Bryan. Shoots, welcome to the show.
Shoots, what's going on, my man? How you doing, my brother?
Just living la vida loca, buddy. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds pretty Spanish and exotic. So that's cool. That's cool. How about yourself? What's going on with your shark sightings? What's going on?
No shark shoots, no sharks. Did see a dolphin yesterday, so there you go. So I circled around him on my little e-foil, which was good fun.
If I looked up your browser history, do you think I would find, can I learn the language of dolphins? Do you think that would show up in research?
Maybe or maybe not, shoots.
And that would be your way. That's your safety net, right? You see the fin and then you just start doing the little dolphin talk, and that's when you know if it's a shark or not. Is that?
Oh my gosh. That day nerves me greatly, just quietly. But anyways, all good. I see sharks all the time, but they're right up the bottom of the ocean, man. I can see them clearly, but they're hanging there. That's why you never e-foil. So when it gets dark, the sharks come up, right, to eat.
Oh, is that what it is?
So too early in the morning or too late at night, not happening. So there you go. That's your little bit of shark trivia for you, shoots.
You know what? Shark trivia. That dude, I think we just found a new segment. This is it. Shark trivia, Karl Bryan. Or is this like a separate podcast, like Shark Talk with Karl? Like what's happening? How do you want to handle this? Speaking of stick handling, Mike, it's hard to say.
I have nobody listening. Just like any.
The crazy part is we could do something completely asinine like that, and it'd be like, and 5 million downloads, like freaking episode. You never know, folks, right? You just got to go out and do. That's it. So, hey, speaking of just going out and doing it, I'm gonna hit you straight out of the blocks here, Shoots. Zen Thought of the week. Let's go.
Oh, Zen Thought. All right, Zen Thought. Here's one that I thought of this morning. So jump and the net will appear. Right? It's like build, don't talk. As I say that, I think that's the exact opposite of the 50 ways, but jump and the net will appear, right? Over preparing, perfection is the lowest standard on earth that just stops it from happening. Like just jump and the net will appear. You want to go to the networking function. You want to do the local live event. You want to contact the accountant. You want to form the joint venture. You want to get in with the network organization, just put yourself out there and you'll get a little bit better. But maybe actually was listening to a podcast on the weekend, and it was Naval Ravikant. I don't think it was a podcast. I think it was a YouTube video, but he said something to the effect of desire is a contract with yourself not to be happy until you achieve what you set out to achieve, right? Or that desire. So when feeling anxiety, frustration, let's call it unhappiness, my question would be, and the question that it brought me to is like, what's that underlying desire, right? Translation, control your number of desires in order to be a little more Zen-like than you currently are. And remember, 1% a day for 365 days, you get a 37x, which means if you're incredibly chaotic right now in between the years, if you were 37 times better than you're currently at, I think you'd be doing well. And by the way, and controlling the desires that you don't have control over. The weather, right? Right now in some parts of the world, right? The snow is falling, worrying about that, worrying about the economy. Again, you got exactly zero. We were talking about the pre-show shoots, right? Like, create your own economy, right? It's like a strong marketing message. The election just went, but again, there's going to be other elections, and there'll be another one in not too distant future, whether it be local or federal, etc. People responding to you. You can't control whether somebody's going to respond to you, right? So stressing out about it, getting anxious about it, worrying about it, feeling like you're not enough as a result of that, or that person's not interested. You can control the messages, but you can't control the reply message, right? So control the number, and just go, right? Dale Gibbons, one of our star clients, we interviewed him on one of our internal calls, like one of the advanced calls. And he was just saying, and the question was like, what's the secret sauce? And he said, honestly, guys, I've just been doing this for a long time, and I just get up and I just take one foot and put it in front of the other. I just take action, right? Translation. He sends out his 25, targeted, personalized messages a day, and the results are there, and he's been doing it for a long time. Think of that, the 37X when you 1% gain it every single day for a year. Anyway, so just, slow and steady wins the race, maybe. Another thing, be mindful. I'm thinking about like AI, and like, be mindful of your biases, right? Like, everybody hates advertising until they need to sell their own car. Is a, great example, in my opinion, of, what I mean? Something just like stresses people out, but then all of a sudden it's like, I get a better one. Advertising the profit is a superpower, right? Like, so what bias, that's not the greatest example of a bias, but no doubt, there's recency bias. There's tons and tons and tons of them. If you're not completely aware what your biases are, look, that's not a good thing. So you might want to go and do a little bit of homework on ChatGPT or, Google, to have a little bit of a look and say, what are the things that I'm falling victim to? And translation, and why I said that, like, the magic that people don't see about AI is its lack of biases. That's why it gives like really, really solid answers. It's got absolutely no biases. It's never done a marketing campaign that flopped. It's never spent too much money on a marketing campaign that went sideways, etc. Right? Anyways, and another, like, okay, maybe an example of that, like Coke is a marketing unicorn, right? Maybe nobody's ever done it better than Coke. Well, maybe Nike, but Coke and Nike right up there at the top of the, advertising game, actually not a branding game, right? So translation, let's go to Coke. You think Coke must be the best company, due to the brand strength and their popularity over, ridiculous number of years. Maybe it's 100 by now. But you know what? If you actually look at the numbers, Pepsi's outperformed Coke in terms of shareholder returns. Like, I don't know exact numbers, right? But it's like 2x over the last 50 years, right? So like, but I would imagine that the average, that would surprise you, right? So if you're taking looking to dump some money into the stock market, and there was only Coke or Pepsi as your two options, without doing some homework and looking it up, you would automatically favor Coke just on the back of, their popularity and, the branding, right? Their marketing is just so good, right? And by the way, the reason that is, Pepsi has significantly less reliance on Pepsi, the drink, and they have better use of their distribution channel. That's real. You think about Coke and Pepsi, the real magic of the company is their distribution. So Pepsi do a better job of selling chips and snacks and bottled water and energy drink, whether it be Red Bull or the competitor to that. So that's where they really crush them, and that's why they've crushed them. Whereas Coke, I don't know that they've rested on their laurels by any stretch. And again, they've been an incredible investment over 50 years, but Pepsi significantly better over the last 50 years. Like, we're not talking over the last year or two. We're talking over the last 50 years. I think that certainly surprises me, and it might surprise you, right? And by the way, so now I just said bottled water as an example. The reason the bottled water company struggles to get off the ground, right? So somebody comes up with a new pH style water or cleaner water, this water, that water, from the Caribbean, whatever it might be, it's shelf space, right? It's not the quality of the water, the quality of the packaging, and the quality of the marketing. It's shelf space, right? So to stock it at the gas station or 7-Eleven or the convenience store or the grocery store, etc., because you're now selling water, you don't have distribution. They got to open up a new account. It's a new delivery because you're not going to be, it's not getting thrown on the back of the Coke truck, right? It's going to be a new delivery. It's a new account payable. Just another company for them to deal with and for them to track, and that's going to translate into some distracted employees, right? So again, the reason the Coke and Pepsi are the incredible machines that they are is distribution, and that is and then that, by the way, translation for a business coach. That's why a joint venture with an accountant works so well for a business coach. What does the accountant have? Think about it as a distribution mechanism, as opposed to just somebody to send you a few clients. So anyway, Shoots, that's yeah, those are some thoughts, my man, around. That's my Zen thought. And I started off, I think, with the exact opposite of a Zen, but I do think build, don't talk. I think those are, what is that, 3 words? I think those are powerful 3 words for the average business coach. That's my answer, bud.
So disclaimer, folks, literally don't jump, like physically don't jump. There is no, we're not doing this. That number 1. Number 2, you mentioned about control desires. That reminds me, I was listening to Layla Hermosi's podcast this weekend. And that sort of reminded me of what she said. It's like, for why people don't take action. It's not so much the fear, but it's the feeling of the fear.
Yeah. Oh, right. Emotional control. Yeah. You got to control those emotions. Yes. I think we said that last week, actually. It was like the number 1 skill. And it's like, the ability to regulate your nervous system, the ability to regulate emotion is right up there at the top of the game for an entrepreneur to be successful. So yes, I love it.
It's that whole, you have the fear, but you do it anyways. You don't let your emotions control your habits. You have the discipline to just do what you know you must do.
Yeah, I think that's agreed, bro.
So, okay. You said something to the lines of, you get rich not off the deals you make, it's the deals you walk away from. That's interesting. I just wanted to ask you if that's the same reason that you always say that bankers are generally broke.
That would be. That's one Joe Cornetta, by the way, legend. Yeah. So bankers are a classic, right? Like, if you introduce me to a poker player who's broke, I'll introduce you to somebody who is not good at poker. Okay. Because again, they're playing with money. So they just need to be like right 51% of the time, and it'd be all right. Nuances, of course, right? But bankers are effectively playing with money, and they get it wrong like 90% of the time, right? Why? Okay. So let's go 2 different companies, go to the banker, and they say, look, I need to get $1 million, right? And one is a company who needs 10 trucks, and they're $100,000 each, saying $1 million. And he says, give me your business plan. And then the business plan is that they're going to have net margins of 10%, and there's this need in the market, and they're the guys, and they're going to work harder, and this is going to be great. What does the banker say? I love it. This is amazing. You need 10 trucks. They're $100,000 each, $1 million. Look, let us know where to send the money. And that company with 10% net margin sounds incredibly profitable. Go get them, Tiger, right? Versus somebody goes to the banker and they say, look, here's what I need. And I don't need $1 million. I need $100,000, right? So I need 10% of the money. And what I'm going to do, what are you going to do with the money? Well, I'm going to get on a plane, and I'm going to go to Trinidad, and I'm going to buy leather and some other articles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make purses, and I'm going to make wallets, and I'm going to make things out of leather, like specifically purses and wallets. And I'm going to go to the marketplace. And I think the most one of the more expensive ones that I saw are $1,000 each for this purse. So I'm going to charge $2,000, and I'll make it super cool. And then what does the banker say? They say, oh, I don't know, there's just something about it. I don't feel good about it. Right. And I'm describing Louis Vuitton, right? The 3rd richest man, I believe, in the world owns Louis Vuitton, right? And they don't like that idea. And simply put, they're just taught and trained, because there's 10 trucks and they're $100,000 each. for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, because they then have an asset that they can take away. That's the business that they go for, right? And again, that's just completely, talk about biases and that sort of stuff, skews their ability and their understanding of business. And that's the guy who gets the money, right? It's like strategy, maybe, like, okay, maybe off topic, maybe perfectly on topic, but like Trump just recently came out. He's not president yet, and he's going to put 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And you know what I mean? And he goes 100% public with all the news. Or what happens? Everybody freaks out, right? Just go to businessinsider.com or the newspaper, and I'd be amazed if you wouldn't see an article, right? Including in a month from now. Like, love him or hate him, but certainly you'd have to give Donald Trump credit for being a really good negotiator, right? Well, what happened almost immediately after? Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, flies to Mar-a-Lago, right, to have dinner. The Mexican president responds publicly, right? And people see the threat, but then they don't see the strategy, right? And again, the guy's not even president yet. Like, negotiators, maybe a better example and less controversial in these times. Negotiators like Karl, right? They start with hard stance, and then they have clear stakes at play. They create some public pressure, whether it be around inside the company or potentially as broad as newspaper, media, etc. And what it does is it forces urgency for the person that they're negotiating with. And really, one of the things with negotiating is time, right? And you want to have a dynamic where all of a sudden they feel a little bit rushed, like they need to take action, right? It's chess over checkers, right? As a one-on-one metaphor. And by the way, negotiation is something you can learn. I sold $100,000 coaching programs in the mid 2000s. I negotiated like a win-win deal with scarcity and urgency. And the person felt, look, I got to take action here. I need to move on this, right? And I did that in a number of ways, but that's semi-irrelevant here. But there was definitely scarcity and there was definitely urgency built onto it and a little bit of pressure, right? That was a good thing all of a sudden. And if in some cases they would, say yes, in other cases they would say no. But what they did do is they didn't, the worst when you're negotiating, especially, in the coaching world we're doing, you don't want to have those maybes, right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You don't want those. You want to, create a dynamic where decisions are made one way or another and you can keep going, right? So, that's what I would say there, Shoots. But the bankers, they got a little bit upside down is what they've got it. And, that's it. And it's the same with and by the way, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm horrifically wrong. Don't listen. You know what I mean? Just listen to what I'm saying and take it as fact. Go and speak to some bankers and try find me really, really wealthy bankers. And I think what you're going to find is that will be the exception by a long way. And the other one is the accountants, right? Accountants, they play with money all day, much like the poker players, right? They're playing with money. But I think if you line up 10 accountants, you're going to find that one of them is not going to be wealthy. And my opinion is they should. And by the way that they do is they stop practicing accounting and they go into the business world and use their accounting as a competitive advantage. But anywho, so that's my answer, Shoots. That's my answer. See, well, be careful listening to the banker when creating a business plan and trying to get money, etc. Be very, very careful with the banker has to say, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I guess it's like asking the real estate agent, is now a good time to buy the house from you? Anyway, so I looked up the top 10 richest people in the world because I'm like, there's no way. Well, okay. Number one, let's go. Who is it, KB? Number one, richest man in the world.
Elon Musk.
100%. $343 billion. Number two, let's go. This is we're doing this. Number two, your boy.
I'm going to say Bernard Arnault. That's the Louis Vuitton guy.
Incorrect. But it is your boy. You talk about this dude a lot. It is not Tom Brady. Jeff Bezos is correct with $229 billion. Number three. This one is a shocker. I didn't expect this to be in the top three.
Bernard Arnault.
Zuckerberg. Oh, is he? No. 203. Number 4 is Larry Ellison. And number 4 is Arnault. Arnault with $168 billion, which is about, I don't know, half of Elon Musk. Isn't that nuts? That is unbelievable. So, but I'm going down this list. Then you've got Gates, you've got Larry Page, Alphabet. Then you've got that Buffett is number 8. Number 8. And he ain't no banker. Steve Ballmer is number 9 and number 10. Real. Sergey Brin. So no bankers in the top 10, folks. So there you go, Shoots. Your story holds. Your story holds. Hey, speaking of stories that hold, what a great segue. Holy smokes, I should be getting paid for this. Hey, something we haven't done in a while. How about some good old-fashioned, and I dread this because, God, we're going down rabbit holes. I can feel this already. KB wisdom. But oh boy, this. Do I need to put bumpers up? Like if we're bowling, do I need to put bumpers and guardrails in place right now just to make sure we don't go completely off the rails?
It might be a good idea, Sheets. I had a long likeness.
You know what? I've had worse ideas. That's for sure. Worse ideas like, yes, Karl, I will take that last beer from you. All right. Something everyone should know. Let's go. What you got?
Okay. I get coaches.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to restrict you this first round, but I'm telling you, if you don't behave, it's full on guardrails the next time around.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this, the average politician making and in control of fiscal policy is, I have no idea, by the way, but I'm going to say it's a 70-year-old baby boomer with assets, right? So they got a stock portfolio and they got a couple of houses. So if you look at the fiscal policies, like printing trillions during COVID as an example, it'll suddenly make sense, right? They don't want prosperity. They're not 25 to 35-year-olds, right? So my question is, do they want prosperity for 25 and 30-year-olds, right? And if you do your homework, you will see that it's never been more difficult for a 30-year-old to basically make it financially, and we're talking about stocks and, buying real estate, etc. Right? Which by the way, would be a correction of assets, which has happened for, since the end of time at different times. That's the house all of a sudden being devalued substantially. Let's say as much as 40%, not a correction at like 5 or 10, but like a proper downturn, right? And their stock portfolio tanking. They want economic stability for themselves in retirement. No doubt that would make sense, that's natural. Well, and again, maybe I'm horrifically wrong and maybe I'm spot on. Go have a look at fiscal policy over the last, I'm going to say certainly 20 years, possibly over the last 20 years. And I think that you're going to find that if you were a 70-year-old baby boomer with asset, stock portfolio, and a couple houses and the cottage, etc., I think that you're going to find it favors them. And I think that that is not necessarily a great thing. I've said that once before on the podcast at some stage, but that right there might make you feel a little better, make you feel a little bit worse. And again, don't listen to what I'm saying. Maybe I'm horrifically wrong. Go check it out. But anyway, so it'd be that. But that said, and it's not too late. You talk about 70-year-olds, or like Kroc was 52 when he started McDonald's. I talk to coaches all the time, and they, I can feel. I don't necessarily use those words, but they feel like they're a little bit behind, which frankly can be a bit of a dangerous position to, psychologically, to feel like you're behind. Translation, taking unnecessary risks and not good ones. But, Kroc was 52 when he started his first McDonald's. Red Bull was in his 60s when he started, I can't pronounce the guy's name for the life of me, but he was like in his 60s when he started Red Bull, working out pretty well for him. Rodney Dangerfield, who's like a Hollywood legend, he was in his mid 40s. I think he was 46, 44, 45, 46 when he got his first role, like when he kind of cracked it. So, you're not too late. I think that is super duper important. And psychologically, I think it can give you a bit of an advantage or certainly some relief. Be wisdom. So people just go to coaches, like people don't understand compounding both. And this would be the coach consultant and this would be the entrepreneur. Like they say they do, right? So translation 7 + 7 + 7 is easy done and very natural. But you go 7 × 7 × 7, and it doesn't compute for the average person, which, by the way, the secret of it is marginal utility theory, which is literally the foundation of my software, where you get compounding returns without the need for time. right? Because again, you get multiplication instead of addition, right? You're trying to hit singles instead of home runs. Just think Moneyball, right? My software is built off of Moneyball and hitting singles and not home runs. But the magic is you can get that compounding result without having to wait 10 years the way that Warren Buffett would tell you is necessary, right? But understand that Warren Buffett and certainly Dave Ramsey, they speak to employees. They don't speak to entrepreneurs. So just singles, and again, and by the way, the same way that McDonald's is built, Subway is built, Walmart is built, if you reverse engineer their business models, what they really do is they just have not the foundation, but the fundamentals in place, and they do them consistently, and it's really, really boring, and it doesn't change a lot. If you look at the changes that McDonald's have had over the last 50 years, they are not spectacular by any stretch of the imagination of a company its size and its popularity and its revenues, etc. So anywho, just multiplication, just understanding compounding, understanding marginal utility theory, which marginal utility theory is just if you improve 1% per day, every day for an entire year, 365 days, you get a 37x, right? So if you suck at sales, I don't care how bad you are. If we multiplied your abilities by 37, you'd be pretty good, right? So all you got to do is you got to go and read a book, listen to a podcast every single day. And then, by the way, if you do it for 2 years, I can't remember quite what you get like a 1,600% return. What that doesn't say is it gets a little bit harder as you compound your talents and you get, better at something like sales, or maybe it's coaching or accounting or whatever it is. Anywho, so that I think that there's real magic in that, just understanding the foundation of compounding and how you could benefit as an entrepreneur and how your clients could benefit as a business coach. Look, when asked for wisdom, it'd be impossible to skip over this one, but it's old money equals never sell. Okay, so old money equals never sell. You introduce me to a family with old money, and I'll introduce you to a great-great-grandfather and a great-great-grandmother that never sold, right? So again, holding. And Sam Walton would be an example. Like, you talk about the richest people in the world. The thing with Sam Walton is he's broken up. Walmart is broken up amongst all of the family members. If you took it and added it up, I remember like Bill Gates was the richest man in the world, but the reality is that Sam, like the Walton family trumped him big, 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 big time because they broke it up through, the family members. It didn't show, that to be the case. But at the end of the day, Warren Buffett, what does Warren Buffett say? He never buys a stock that he doesn't want to own for at a minimum a decade, and more preferably for forever. So translation, literally had a conversation about this via Facebook with a guy who's he's going to sell his house to go all in on his company. And I couldn't help myself. I'm like, wait. And it's a guy that I've had some conversations with, and I've, mentioned, maybe helped him along the way. I think of what he would say. And I'm like, man, rather than sell your house, like why would he sell his house? So that he can cash out and get the money in the bank. What's he going to do with the money? He's going to put it into the company, right? So translation, he doesn't want to sell his house. He wants to get the money. Well, dependent upon credit score and a few other things, but he could go to the bank. And let's just say he's got a $600,000 house with, I don't know, $200,000 of equity. He would be able to pull out a good percentage of that $200,000 without selling the house, right? So I think that would be an example of old money equals never sell. Buying and selling. If you introduce me to somebody who's owned 5 houses, I always say, I bet you wish you didn't sell the first one. And it's just like the money that they made on all the 5, let's say they sold 5 houses, they made money on each. If you take the money that they made on the 5 houses that they sold, it will be trumped. It will be the money that they would have made in equity on the one house if they never sold it will be more. And clearly that's the bottom line. Old money equals never sell. You know what I mean? Like, you buy that piece of real estate, find a way to not sell it. Because if you really want to get a hold of ahead in real estate, what most people do is they buy a house and then they sell it, and then they buy a bigger one, and then they sell it and they buy a bigger one in a better neighborhood, etc. And you need to own 2 to really get ahead if you think about it. Anywho, so old money equals never sell. I think that's a writer downer. Look, last, you'll be remembered for what you refuse to give up on, right? So the question then becomes, what do you refuse to give up on? Like you're coaching, a new coach gets going. I always hit them with these three things, but it's just straight from the Mel Fisher movie where he found $100 million treasure off the Florida Keys. And he had three beliefs. One is that it was there. Two, that he was the guy that was going to find it, the treasure. And three, it was going to be worth it. By the way, it took him 17 years to get it. And he lost a wife. He lost a fortune. He lost a child. It was a horrific dynamic. But at the end of the day, he never let up. My question if you want to be successful in coaching, the people that struggle the most are those that go, day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, deciding if they're going to keep going. What you really need to do, I think, is you got to go all in and say, this is what I meant to do. And by the way, the clients are there. I am the guy that they should pay because I'm more passionate. I am more knowledgeable. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to show up faster. I'm going to show up at a higher level, etc., so that you're the right person. And then third, most importantly, is that it's going to be worth it. And if you don't go to number three, what you're going to find is those speed bumps and those obstacles, and in some cases, the concrete fences that get in your way could stop you. So you got to be very careful. Again, I always say you got to get mad, not sad. You got to look for reasons to advance versus reasons to retreat, right? So actually, another one, this is, should I say this? But shared emotional experience. And the example that I use is the old show Bachelor and Bachelorette, right? Like they go on a date and they go bungee jumping and they go, go-kart racing and they go do all kind of, e-foiling retreat in Colombia. Maybe they're going to do something crazy like that, right? Like I went on an e-foiling retreat with a friend of mine here on the island. And we're significantly closer as a result of what would, what I mean? Like going through the experience. So a shared emotional experience, the reason on Bachelor and the reason they make these really, really deep connections so fast, a little bit to do with the cameras, a little bit staged, etc. But absolutely, what they do on these dates is they go bungee jumping and they go skydiving and they, crawl down the side of buildings, etc. So translation, doing that with your client, is that a good idea? Have you ever gone go-karting with your client? You ever gone bungee jumping with your client? You ever gone hiking with your client? Some of my best coaching sessions is taking a walk in nature with a client, right? Say, look, let's do it this way today, right? You're assuming that you're in the same city, but also jumping on a plane and going to see your client, getting face to face, toes to toes, belly with them could be a really good idea. And by the way, you may or may not know, but Steve Jobs was famous. A lot of Steve Jobs' best business meetings, and something very consistently that he did is he would invite you for a walk. And that's just, he loved it. You'd go for a walk in nature and talk business and partnerships and new stuff. So I don't know, Shades, that's how'd I do?
It's sort of like when you invited me for a steam and I said, like, not even a towel? Like, what's the matter with you? Seriously. No, too much, too soon. It's too close to home. Cuts to the close. Anyways, hey, listen, nobody wants to picture that. You mentioned something about the software. I just, and you sort of alluded to it. I sort of allude to the software a lot. You mention it a bit from time to time. Can you just explain so folks can truly understand the foundation of the software? Can you just take a couple minutes on that?
Yes, I could. Yes. Okay. So short answer, the language of business is what? You give me a room of 100 people and I ask that question, 80 hands will go up for sales and marketing. The truth is, and this isn't me, this is Warren Buffett, the smartest business minds ever, like the guys that we just listed, Elon Musk, et cetera. They're going to tell you that the language of business is accounting, and it absolutely is, right? So I believe that if you took Elon Musk and you said, okay, that's the reality, he would say, well, what are the first principles of accounting? Right? Like I've done this, right? That is revenues, profit, and cash. Profit and cash are not the same thing. Okay. So revenues, profit, cash, that's the first principles of accounting. But then if I went deeper and I said, okay, so let me go further than that. What are the first principles of revenue, profit, and cash? Okay. That will bring you to compounding, which you'll never see. You very seldom see an interview with Warren Buffett where he doesn't use the word compounding. Right. So, and then think, wealth, what's the foundation? What's the first principles of wealth? Again, compounding. And then the first principles of compounding, if you went further, you're going to come to 3 words called marginal utility theory, right? My software is 100% built off of marginal utility theory, right? So that may be a complicated way of saying what happens when you double a penny every day for 30 days? You end up with $5 million. The problem is, of course, the business owner, what don't they have? They don't have time, right? So you double a penny for every day. But by the way, it gets really, really exciting towards the end when you start getting that compounding effect. You go to 31 days, you're at over $10 million, right? Well, number 2, I said a minute ago, if you improve 1% per day for 365 days, you get a 37x jump. So again, if you can coach, you can't sell, and if you can sell, you can't coach, right? That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I'm not too far off in the industry, right? So if you're no good at sales and we 37x your talents, look, surely you'd be able to get you'd be getting a few more deals done. That's for damn sure. If not entering the realm of what we call elite, right? In the coaching space of, getting deals done. So the software effectively gets business owners compounding financial results without having to wait the time, without having to wait 10 years the way that Warren Buffett will tell you, right? How do you do that? By a marginal utility theory, which we call profit acceleration, by the way. That's what's called profit acceleration software. And like an example, okay, so I mentioned McDonald's earlier, right? So what McDonald's do is they do the fundamentals over and over and over again, right? So market dominating, what is the market dominating position of McDonald's? Well, you may or may not know, you probably heard the expression fast food, okay? Well, McDonald's literally created those 2 words pieced together, fast food. So now you hear it, you think of, it might be Dairy Queen and it might be Burger King or whatnot, but you think of fast food, but McDonald's created that. And without putting any explanation on the other end, no doubt you could see how fast food is something that would be attractive to somebody on lunch break or with kids in a rush to get home. It's getting late, it's getting dark, etc. And then, by the way, they created the drive-through, right? The ideal client, market dominated, think unique selling proposition. But what we do with the market dominating position is it solves the ideal problem for the ideal client. Okay. So think drive-through. The reason, once again, McDonald's, you look it up, but McDonald's created the drive-through, right? Why? Mom's got 3 kids, getting them out of the car, parking, getting the kids out of the car, into McDonald's, sit down, eat, back into the car is a hell of an exercise, and it takes significantly longer than ideal in many cases. Well, they created the drive-through. So you literally drive through, grab the order, put the food in the back, and basically the kids are eating. By the time you get home, the kids are fed. You throw, the wrappers in the garbage, and bingo, bango, bongo, mom's done. She's good. She can chill out for the night, start getting the kids to bed, right? Well, McDonald's do that. That is part of my software, like the fundamentals. I reverse engineered the biggest companies in the world, like McDonald's, and there's Subway, and there's Walmart, etc. I tell you, they've all got the exact 12 areas dialed in. They call them something different. And by the way, it's the same stuff that Tony Robbins teaches in his program. Dan Kennedy, like you take the most successful coaching programs in the world, maybe say the most expensive programs in the world. Again, they all have different names and whatnot, but they've got these same specific areas, the fundamentals. Another one is bundling, right? Well, you go to McDonald's and they say, do you want me to turn that into a meal, right? They've got an upsell. Do you want me to supersize that? They got a cross sell. Do you want fries with that? Do you want an apple pie with that? Raising prices. Again, the average business owner hasn't raised their prices in 3 years. If you go to McDonald's, and again, don't believe me, go check out the data, but you will see that they've consistently raised their prices year over year, over the last 100 years. And they don't just do it automatically, by the way. They measure, economic, environment. Like during COVID, they wouldn't have raised their prices. Could imagine the bad press that could have brought them, right? So they didn't do it then. But anyways, they raise their prices. Does the chiropractor do it? Does the dentist do it? Does the butcher, baker, candlestick maker do it? And I think instinctively, if they're not doing it, they're not thinking about it. It's not something that automatically happens. And if they do it, they probably do too much of a jump. Like McDonald's doesn't double the price of a Big Mac. They just raise it up, 5%. And then controlling costs. Again, they're all about buying better. If you know anything about McDonald's, that's one of the big things and the advantages of franchising. Joint ventures. You ever been to Walmart? What's there? A McDonald's. You ever go to a gas station? What's there? A McDonald's. So they basically the software has got these specific 12 areas. We call it the Jumpstart 12. And it's the same, areas that the biggest companies in the world had. And I'm going back when the research was done and whatnot. We're kind of going back a decade, but it's all there. Bingo, mango, bongo. Yeah, remember I built, very importantly, speaking of fundamentals, I didn't build revenue acceleration software. I built profit acceleration software, right? So basically the software guides a business through the coach and client through profitable process. And that way, by the way, clients, yes, they cancel all the time and different issues, but I got to tell you, if you look at your clients that have stuck around for 3, 5, 10 years, the ones that are making great money are absolutely, the ones that are making good money and a good return, and you're able to point at it, generally speaking, they're just not going anywhere, right? So, and notwithstanding, one of the challenges is that, they can't afford you. You know what I mean? Well, guess what? Profit acceleration software is designed to create a very profitable outcome and those compounding type results without you having to wait, without the client having to wait, without everything having to get stretched out over a period of years, right? It can be done incredibly quickly. So anyways, and again, singles, not home runs, singles, home runs. We go to those specific 12 areas. The instructions are always 2% jumps, 5% jumps, 10% jumps, not 50% jumps. So the 50% jump is a home run, a grand slam. And the 2% jump is like getting hit by a pitch, right? And the other huge, I think, like, talk about market dominating position, solving the problem. What's the problem that your entrepreneur, your prospects, your business coaching clients, your business consulting clients have? And it's that business owners are trying to get big so that they can get rich. I will let you guess how that ends up time and time again, right? It ends up being they get big and they become the opposite of rich. They become insanely busy and their profit margins tight the whole way through, right? Or their goal, opposed to trying to get big so they can get rich, their goal is to hit $1 million this year. How often do you hear that? You give me a room of 100 entrepreneurs. Remember, 96% don't make it to $1 million in gross revenues. They want to get to $1 million a year. I don't know that it's a stupid goal. We've talked about it lots of time on the podcast, but this is the problem to solve, right? It's why is that a stupid goal? Because they could hit their goal of getting to $1 million and lose money. They could get to their goal of $1 million and make very little money. And then, by the way, what happens when they don't make money? They make a negligible amount of money. It doesn't feel like it's worth the hassle. They lose passion, right? Success breeds passion. You introduce me to somebody that made it to the major leagues or, playing professional football, playing professional soccer, playing professional cricket. And I'm going to introduce you to somebody that was really, really good at it. And then that led them to train more, right? Well, your entrepreneur is no different. They lose the passion because they don't feel the success. A business owner that's going from success to success to success, you're probably going to find you're going to have somebody that's, jacked up, ready to go. They don't need an alarm clock to wake up at 5 a.m. Like they're going, right? So rather than trying to get to $1 million, what's the antidote to that? What's the solution to that? What's the opposite of that? Well, how about they create a goal to build a crazy profitable business with 50% profit margins and then maintain 50% profit margins while they grow from 250 to 500, from 500 to $1 million, from 1 million to 2 million, 2 million to 5 million. Now that's a goal, right? So anyway, so just margin. The way in real estate, it's location. I believe that we should be thinking, and again, a lot of coaching is too much jumping up and down, clapping hands, singing Kumbaya. You motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker. The opposite of that is just making sure that they're building a profitable business and going margin, as opposed to motivation. And not that you don't need some motivation, but I think that the motivation organically happens with the success. And again, success looks a lot like profitability. Again, profit acceleration software, not revenue acceleration software. Shoots, another one that comes to mind as I say that. This is like a higher level thought, but a lot of businesses are looking to what? To exit. This is Keith Cunningham 101, right? Look, rather than exiting, which I know sounds sexy and it will get you some sales, there's no question. But what about building a business you could sell tomorrow, but don't want to, right? Now, there is a higher level thought. Now, that's an aspiration. That's a goal. And I think somebody that would really excite, something that would really excite them. right? And like Warren Buffett, he, again, he's one of the greatest venture capitalists of all time. Again, I can't remember what you said, Shoots, but out of 150 billion, something insane. Well, what does he say? And by the way, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time. Might not be seen. People think of Warren Buffett as like the investment guy. He is a business guy. He is a consultant on steroids and insanely good at it. He is two things that is very, very rare: old, and he is rich. Okay. Old and rich. When somebody is old and rich, it's normally, a time to use the 2 ears, 1 mouth analogy. But okay, so what does he say? He says that he wants to find something that he can buy for a penny, sell for $1, and that is habit forming. Buy it for a penny, sell it for $1. That's habit forming. Genius of that statement is insane. And look at his, his best investments. Coke, is that a little bit, habit forming? Gum, habit forming. Tobacco is certainly habit forming. Candy, rent. When you start renting a house, do you want to pick up and move? You plan to rent for 6 months. You plan to rent for 12 months. And when it ends up happening 3 years later, like, I can't believe we're still in the same house. Is that habit forming? I don't know. That falls into the same category, but it's there, right? It's a relative. It's a cousin. It's a cousin of chewing tobacco. And so, okay, I think I said this a second ago, but I want to make sure. So another issue, right, is that they grow from 500 grand to 2 million using your guidance, right? So their gross revenues are 500 grand when you meet them. They're trying to get to that elusive $1 million mark, and they blow past it because you're good, they're good, working hard. Everybody's, putting one foot in front of the other, and they're making everything work. They get to 2 million, but they're making less money at 2 million than they were at 500 grand. They're making less million at 2 million than they were at $1 million, right? Or maybe they're making more, but it's a negligible amount, right? Well, the big takeaway there is that the company is more vulnerable. A $1 million company is not as vulnerable, generally speaking, than the $2 million company. The reason: more staff, more accounts receivable. A rogue staff member could leave and steal some clients. A client could go bankrupt, or, you had a bad debt on the books that you know what I mean? The money's just not coming, and you lit it on fire and made the sale and, did the work and paid the bonuses, etc. So solution to that, again, you want to build instead of building a big company so you can get rich, building a really profitable business with margins, great margins, and margins that you maintain through the growth, right? Or like another one, like talking to the accountants, or, we talk about financial statements a lot. And again, the foundation of the software, it's not like it's accounting software in any way, shape, or form, but it's got very much, if you thought of it as projection software, it's a really juiced up and impressive form of projection software. Well, when you read a P&L, the problem is the average person will go where? Because they don't understand what they're looking at. They go straight to the bottom line. Well, if you had two companies and one made $100,000 profit, that's the bottom line, and one does 500, so they both have $100,000 of profit, bottom line profits, but one does $500,000 of revenues and one does $5 million of revenues in order to in order to get the $100,000. Well, which one would you rather own? And by the way, I've done this exercise, and a lot of the time people will say, oh, the $5 million company, because you just need to make some tweaks, which is not entirely, I'm not giving you enough information to make to give the answer. But I got to tell you, I would be very, very cautious to go to a business that's that big at $5 million, making tight margins like that, because I think if anything goes wrong, they're in the red big time. And I don't think that's a good thing. So again, remember, they're trying to get big so they can get rich. And my experience is, and I think you'll see the stat, the data, 95% fall over, right? That's, why? Well, I'm explaining it. You know what I mean? Like they're not using our software. That's the solution. But at the end of the day, again, uneducated will just go straight to the bottom line and assume that two companies that made $100,000 of profit, or $250,000 of profit, or $50,000 of profit, or $500,000 of profit are the same. And it's not enough information. And that's why I would encourage any business coach, any consultant to you don't need to become an accountant in any way. The same way that I don't need to be an electrician to turn on the lights. I just need to know where the light switch probably is beside the door, right? Reading financial statements going to be a lot like that. You don't need to be able to create them. You got to be able to read them. In order to read them, you need to know where to look. And it's really not that complicated, I promise you. So anyway, so yeah, that's solution to all that. Margins. The company that grew to like $5 million and had piss poor profits. They were not watching their margins on the way up. And I guarantee when they were at $1 million, their margins would have been significantly greater. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got to 5 million, by the way. Unless, of course, they're raising money, blah, 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 blah. Again, not enough information. But the same way that real estate is location, I want you to be thinking margins over top of motivation, which I know that it plagues our industry because it's very, very important for obvious reasons. But you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker. And I would hazard you to be a little cautious with that as you put the Jumpstart 12 to, into action and start making these profitable companies, make sure they're profitable. So, and by the way, what I just said, I think is like the world's greatest sales pitch to become a business coach or to become a consultant. And coaches miss this all the time, right? Like they can never give me this answer when I ask them, unless they listen to the podcast. But one of the reasons to become, and this is channeling my inner Warren Buffett, the reason to become a coach consultant is because we make 80% margins, right? 80% margins, massive. So the other industries, the landscaper is just not making that. You know what I mean? It's not the landscaper is just not going to make 80% margins as assuming that they have any kind of a business. So there you go, Shoots. That is my answer. How did I do?
Buy it for a penny, sell it for $1, and it's habit forming. You know who else strapped that? Pablo Escobar. Well, there you go, Shoots. That's true. Hey, listen, I as soon as I was just like, that's a perfect example. Habit forming. Yep, 100%. King of cocaine. Listen, you talked about, and I really just last point I want to touch on, off the cuff completely here. You talked about the whole people wanting to basically become rich or build a business just to sell it. Reminded me of a quote that I saw that my buddy Dan Martell posted the other day, and he put, "You receive what you desire for others. Stop making it about you, make it about them." And I thought that was a really excellent quote that he did. But can you touch on this for a second, dude? Like, especially in SaaS, right? Like, there's a lot of that, but you see it in every business, in every industry, people that say, look, I'm just doing this to get it to this valuation, I'm selling. Is that a dangerous mindset to have?
Oh, you're 100%. Again, it needs to exiting is all about you. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, now you really care about the client. You really care about your product. You really care about your services. Do you really care about the experience? All you're trying to do is jack it up to exit. Absolutely. I don't know that it's a cancer, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, if you introduce me to somebody who's building a company to exit, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's you know what I mean? They're stuck in their own head in their own way, in a not so good way. So, and then in the SaaS, you mentioned SaaS, the SaaS piece, it's absolutely rampant. And it's yes, and yes. It's crazy.
It's interesting because as soon as I'm just thinking it through, I'm like, okay, well, if all you care about is really to truly have the higher margin so you can get a higher valuation, what is that saying? You're probably skimping. You're probably shortcutting on production. You're probably having a weaker product. All these other things, and what does that do for you? Well, it's eventually you will lose, right?
Somebody else is going to come in that's more committed, more jacked up, and of course, there's nuances to all we're describing, right? But absolutely, I think. Look, you want to build a business. You could. Well, here's another. So. We've talked about this in the podcast at different times, but here's the person that I will get on the phone with. I'm going to say not consistently by any stretch, but semi-consistently. I've had this conversation countless times where somebody exited their business. Well, I do this. Like, this is day 2 of business coaching mastery. I say, if I were to give you $5 million for your company, who would sell it? Right? Put up your hand. And of course, all the hands go up unless they've seen it generally, but almost all the hands go up. And I say, okay, so let's just assume I'm going to give you a 5X. I'm going to give you 5x multiple on your company. So what does it mean? What did I just say? Okay, that you had earnings, you had profits of $100,000 or $1 million in order for me to come to $5 million, right? Exit. So that means that you were making $1 million. And then the problem is I write you the $5 million check. And then what happens? Okay. You got to pay some tax. You got to pay, the business broker, the M&A guy, the investment banker. You got to pay somebody to sell it, which is going to be, call it 10%, which would be 500 grand, not chump change. There's going to be some debt for sure and some other stuff. So really the way the math shakes out is you got like 2.75 left. Well, remember a minute ago, you were making $1 million a year without meeting the person making $1 million a year. Normally has some spending habits and that sort of stuff. And now they've got their 2.75 cash. And what do they got to do? They got to invest it. Well, somebody that's been running a business for the last 20 years now has 2.75 million to invest. Where do they put it? They put it into real estate. They put it in stocks. They put it, might be crypto nowadays, et cetera. Well, generally speaking, and without knowing how the story ends, how do you think the story ends? How do their investments go, right? How good, the person that they task with helping them, how does that go? And you probably know. So now all of a sudden the 2.75 becomes 1.5, right? Maybe 2, and maybe it grows. That would be awesome. But again, look at the data. And now so all of a sudden, and they have retired and now they're golfing a lot. And now all of a sudden it's okay, well, look, I got to get back to work and I need to get back into business to do. And they end up, in our game, they end up consulting business owners. And and by the way, I've had this individual that I'm describing, I've had them in tears on the phone. Okay. Why are they in tears? Because the worst mistake they ever made was accepting that $5 million deal, not knowing, and now, because again, they sell the company because they're frustrated, they're jaded, they're a little bit overworked. But guess what? When there's only so much golf you can play. So guess what? They get bored, stinking silly, and they want to get back at their company. And of course, the company that buys the company, how good of a job do they do? In some cases, they kill it. Many cases, as in kill it in a good way, right? But many cases, they kill it in a bad way, right? And now their baby gets beat up. That doesn't feel real good. Their clients are contacting them, et cetera. So what they say to me is the worst business decision I ever made was selling my company. So if what I just described sounds like something that you might want to educate yourself around or become again, you want to look for big problems and then solve them. If you want to solve the problem that I just said, what you can do is the guy was making $1 million a year, right? Well, what if they brought somebody in? So you want to bring in the number 2 guy from the number 1 competitor, as an example. Okay. And then bring that person and pay them real money. And let's call that a couple $100,000 a year plus bonuses to get to $250,000 a year in the event that they do a great job. And now that individual is tasked with growing the existing company that is already making $1 million a year. And by the way, if you paid that individual $250,000 to run the company, the company's, still making $750,000 a year. Doesn't sound like a bad day job. And effectively what he does is he moves himself out and creates a little bit of a consulting role, right? You call it chairman, call it whatever you want, but all of a sudden, so now you're consulting your own company, and the guy that you're hiring for a couple $100,000 a year, the number 2 guy from the number 1 competitor, or somebody that's working for the competitor that's looking for an opportunity that they don't see, forthcoming in their current role and their current company. His job is not to come take over and hold steady. His job is to grow it. And that's why the incentives are there, right? What Charlie Munger would say is, show me the incentives and I'll show you the results, right? So incentivize them wildly to grow the company. So now the guy, let's assume that they can get it to $2 million of earnings. Well, now the guy is built a company. He didn't, he could sell tomorrow, but didn't want to. He still owns his company. He's consulting to his company. He's only doing 3 hours a day or, 20 hours a week or whatever he decides would be the right number for him or her number. And they still got their company. And it's increasing and increasing in value. And now they got staff taking over and going. So anyway, so that could be a better opportunity. So starting a company with exit in mind, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But not only that, for the landscaping company, the oil and gas company, the the guy that's, he owns 3 hairdressing salons, etc., selling them. And that might be the right play. If I was going to buy a company, what you're looking for is you're looking for somebody who's beat up, tired, old, sick, and just totally over it. And the problem with that, though, is, again, without saying any more, no doubt that person is getting lowballed. That person is going to let the company go for significantly less. And that's why you want to buy the company off that individual, because you make money when you buy, not when you sell. Not that we're looking to take advantage of people, by the way, but you know what I mean? But that's the kind of person you want to buy a company from. You just, you want to buy it. It's like, if you want to buy real estate, you know what I mean? Like, find a grandma whose husband passed away recently and the house is just too big for her now to maintain and upkeep, and the memories are just too much for her. That's an example of a house that you could do, really, really well with. Similar in business. So anyway, so yeah, just look, building a company to exit, shoots, it's got hazard written all over it. Very common.
Yeah, no, fair. So you beat me to it. I was going to say, yeah, go to number 1 competitor, get number 2 man. You beat me to that punch. Never mind the fact that if you're still consulting for the business, all the tax advantages and everything else that you would have, right?
Yeah.
Rather than that big lump sum of cash come. Again, we're making some bold assumptions here, but
yep, absolutely. But surely we can agree that being, that entrepreneur, and let's make him your father, your uncle, somebody close to you that you care about, surely he deserves to have a conversation with somebody who's heard this conversation to look, there are other options, right? So in business, it's always, it's not binary, right? Like, the money is a number 3 is what I've always said. So the option to, should I stay or should I go? Should I continue to operate the company or should I sell it? Right? So binary, it's a yes or no. It's option 1 or option 2. And the question is what's option number 3? And surely that entrepreneur with 20 years of experience and 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears building the company deserves to hear that. And I will tell you that without you going to that individual, like, they haven't heard that standpoint. They're thinking it from a binary standpoint, and they're just thinking, at what stage am I going to sell this thing? At what stage am I going to exit? At what stage am I going to get out of this? And it often ends up being a grandiose error for reasons I just outlined. So there you go.
Well, it's interesting too, right? Just real quick, not that we were beating this horse to death here, but it's when you look at that, why does it all have to be so black and white? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, no, I have to sell it. Okay. Or I guess the other option then is you pass it along to your kids. And that could be massively, like, detrimental as well. Right. Because I always take a look at the example of, and I love this one, Arthur Griffiths, right? Took over the Canucks, right, from his dad, and then ended up having to sell the team. Why? Because he didn't have the intellectual capacity. He didn't, what did they say? He didn't have his father's business acumen. Like, so my question is, why not, right? If you're going to bring your kids into a legacy style business, it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about learning all of the reasons of why you started the business, and then also just all the little pieces inside of the business, right? Like, it's no different than, nobody can just walk in to take over focus.com right now, because everything that that you haven't even shared yet on a day-to-day that you instinctively do, that would take somebody probably years to figure out.
Yep. Okay, hence why it would make so much sense to bring somebody in, protect your baby, right? And basically, you know what I mean? Like, mentor and consult that individual. You know what I mean? And becomes fun. You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of cases, that's like a really fun, remember they sell their company and then 5 years they get into consulting with you and I, right? Like, this is what they end up doing. Like, start now and do it, but become a kick butt consultant for your own company. And see, the problem is, again, because they've got the grind, the hustle and grind is still there, but the bringing in of the talented individual with different ideas, in many cases, better ideas, et cetera. You know what I mean? That's just, that could be a lot of fun. So,
because again, the vast majority of people that have done well want to mentor and help others. So here's an opportunity to do exactly that. So, All right. Well, we could continue on this for another hour and a half, but why don't you close us out with the one thing from today's podcast?
The one thing, look, it would be marginal utility theory. Again, foundation of my software, which is fancy math. But just really, so translation, a 1% improvement over every day for 365 days, you get a 37x. Okay. So the same way when you go to a business and the way you get marginal utility theory, what we call profit acceleration, is that you go to multiple areas in the company and you make small incremental changes and improvements in multiple areas. So that way you get the numbers multiply instead of add. And translation, they get a compounding effect the same way that you double a penny for 30 days and end up at 5 million, right? So you get that. So marginal utility theory, and for those, if you suck at sales, improve 1% every day for a year, and you'll be amazing at the end of the year. If you're the really good salesperson and you're not that good at coaching and you feel like others have got a leg up on you, every single day, get 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% better. At the end of 12 months, you would have a 37x return on your coaching ability, which means you'd probably be pretty darn good at it. And by the way, let's assume that you fail miserably. You end up somewhere in the middle, a 15x, a 20x, 12x, you'd still be doing pretty good. So that's the one thing, Shoots.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the King of the Caribbean himself, the Shark King, Karl Bryan. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information, particularly on the profit acceleration software, or how to just grow and scale your business, visit focus.com, subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and do all those things, subscribe, because, hey, we want to have an impact too. We want to hit as many people as we possibly can with our message. And that is it for another week. We will see you in the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.